My vision is independent. I'm not making a studio picture. There's a fallacy.
Yes.
What does that fallacy
It
apply to?
what it applies to again is this. A misperception about what makes any movie work, whether you're talking about and what makes any movie successful, right? On certain levels, the same things that make The Matrix or made The Matrix, for example, successful are the things that made Being John Malkovich successful. Or what's that? I love that movie with Mark Ruffalo
One of my favorite actors.
and the Laura Linney.
Mark Ruffalo, Laura Linney.
Yeah, and it was based off of a Lonergan play, I think. Someone help me out. Someone's got to know this.
Maria.
You can count on me.
Thanks, Maria.
Right. Thank you very much. I mean, they both succeed because the film, because the writers and the filmmakers in general did as much as they could to squeeze as much entertaining potential out of those concepts as they could. Right? It doesn't have to do with one is a sci-fi futuristic thriller action movie thing, and one is this little sort of family drama thing. They're both concepts, and they both have their entertainment value. And in each case, you have to work as a writer to develop, to develop the entertaining potential of that idea, no matter what it is. So it's a false comparison, I guess, is what I'm saying. Thinking about your script in terms of indie or Hollywood, or it's not useful to you. Just identify what the idea is, what's unique about it, and develop that, and don't worry about anything else.
So there's no such thing as being a studio writer or being an indie writer. You're just a storyteller. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. I mean, of course, certain ideas are going to appeal more to the studios.
Okay, so could you talk a little bit then about the fundamentals of that? Let's just say concept and high concept, for example. I mean, would that be a way of illustrating indie versus studio?
No, well, yes, to a certain extent, I guess. But look, the studios are making movies that they can turn into franchises. It's a rough game, okay? If you're just trying to make money off of the return on a movie, it's a risk, right? With all of the money that has to go into it, it's such an enormous risk. And so they want things that they can turn into sequels, and they can make the theme park ride, and they can sell the T-shirts and the video game and all that stuff, right? Because then they'll have more sources of revenue. And that's fine. I mean, they're a business. Don't kid yourself. Hollywood is here to make money, and that's it.
Yeah.
It just so happens that they're making money doing something that crosses over with something that we're passionate about on a creative level.
Yeah.
And
storytelling.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's what they do, right?
Well, that's what we all want to do.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we all want, right?
Well, we all want to make a living doing this.
Well, we all want to make a living. That is certainly true.
So, I mean, the end result is that we all want to make money to be able to continue to be storytellers and tell stories in our own capacity, right?
Right. And yeah, I kind of forgot where we were going with this point, but oh yeah, let's answer Seth's question instead of me trying to remember what the heck we were just talking about.
Well, you were talking about. Okay.
No, go ahead. I don't care.
No. We'll go to Seth's question. It's a trick question. I can see it. Yeah, there's a big trap in this one. What are some of your best tips for writers? Tricks of the trade.
Some of my best tips for writers? Aren't we talking about all that right now?
That's why it's a trick question.
Everything I've said tonight.
Right. That's the best tip.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's true too. There's nothing that begets writing like writing. if that's what you're referring to. I mean, if you're feeling like you don't have anything interesting to say, or that you just don't know where to start today with the project, then open up your journal and write that 100,000 times if you have to do that. Just open up your journal and write, I am boring, I suck, I'm never going to have an original idea, I don't know why I even bother, who would ever be interested in what I have to say. And what happens, because of the nature of writing and the nature of who we are, I guess, as human beings, is that eventually that turns into, well, you know what, maybe I could have the character do this, and oh, this would be a great scene. And so you work your way out of it by writing. So by writing, even if it's just journal writing. Now, I'm not advocating that as the strategy all the time. I'm just giving one example.
Yeah.
If you're, that just the process of writing brings on more writing, brings on more ideas.
Is there any,
no matter what the writing is.
Could you talk a little bit about the old standby, write about what you know, write about what's close to you, write about the things that are close to you, and then also, if you wouldn't mind, talking a little bit about getting stuck in doing intensive research on a project. Because you can say, okay, I'm going to write about what I know. These are the stories that are close to my heart. This is what I've lived through, seen, witnessed, understand, sympathize, or empathize with, and I'm going to stick to that.
Well, look, that's where most writers start.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that sound advice?
Well, no. What I'm saying is that it's normal. I'm saying that everyone, not everyone, but most people go through that. Most people, the first thing that you write is highly personal. And for that reason, I would encourage you to write it, hug it, love it as much as you can, and then put it in a drawer and let go of it. Because while in everything you do, you have to bring yourself into it. I mean, that's all you have to work with, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you wouldn't ask an actor to act without using his body and his voice and his, right? It's the same thing. You have no choice but to bring yourself into it. But you at the same time have to write things that are, if you want to make a living. I mean, if you just want to write for your own edification, great.
Right.
But if you want to make a living at this, you have to write with some eye to what's going to engage other people. Why would this have an audience? Who else would be interested in this? And that means you have to kind of transcend just whatever's important to you personally, a little bit, at least a little bit. You have to think about why this is going to be entertaining to someone besides my mom, mm-hmm. And my best friend or whatever.
And why would it be entertaining to somebody besides your mom? I mean, what?
Because instead of dwelling on what is a very comforting experience, which is writing about this highly personal thing that happened to me. Even if I'm not doing it directly, if I'm trying to sort of be indirect about it, that feels really good to do that. But that has nothing to do with conceptually developing a script. That has nothing to do, I mean, it could be part of developing the idea, but have you thought about who your main character is and what sort of flaws he or she has and who's going to interact with that main character and what journey they're going to go on and where you want them to end up in the end and what's the theme of all of this and what's the arena, like where is this? I mean, have you thought about all of these different conceptual decisions, or are you just writing something because it feels good to get it out? I guess that's what I'm talking about.
Any tips for people that think that the second that they have a manager or an agent, all their problems are solved?
Go back to the beginning of this conversation and listen to it again.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it helps, of course. But you don't need an agent as much as you need a representable script. And when you have a again, we're talking about, I mean, if you're talking about agents and managers, then for the most part, we're talking about the mainstream industry here. And if that's what you want to do, then you need a representable script. And when you do, you'll get lots of meetings. It'll open up lots of doors. But you have to take the time to learn what that means.
Is that the theory of the cream rises to the top? That if you write a good script, ultimately people are going to want to read it, and people are going to want to recommend you, and people are going to want to introduce you to other people, and so on.
That's
and so
part of it. Yes, that's true. But it also means having your expectations in line, and knowing who's looking for what.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to, I'm trying to give a good example. Just know that, I mean, look at the stories that, the movies that the people who you are submitting to are making in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it anything like what you're doing? Because if it's not, if your story is about ant farmers in Idaho or something, I mean, that might
Has that
be
been done?
Not that I can. Maybe we should write it.
There's a unique story. There's a concept, huh?
Right. And it might be a great movie.
Yeah.
And it would never get anywhere in Hollywood, probably. Right. But that doesn't mean it's not worth writing. Of course, write it and find a way to get it made. I mean, especially in this day and age. And we haven't spent a lot of time talking about this tonight, but go out and do it. Just shoot it. Get it, find competent people. Find people who you respect. Don't do it half-assed, but do it. Go out, and you know what? And if you don't have the money, if you write a feature and you don't have the money to shoot all 90 minutes of it or all 2 hours of it or whatever it is, go out and shoot 10 minutes of it. I mean, I was saying this to someone on the site the other day. If you have 10 minutes or 5 minutes of something really good, it's way better than having 90 minutes of something that's just okay, right? And if you have 5 or 10 minutes of something that's really good, it becomes way easier to get the money to do the rest. So just do it. I mean, if that's the story you want to tell, and you take the time to fully develop it, and you get competent people together, and you do it right, then fine, do it. Don't wait for somebody to buy your script or want to represent you or whatever. Just go out and do it. But if what you want is to be represented and you want to have you want to have projects in the studio system or in the network system, then look at what they're doing and do that.
Okay. Well, we covered the fallacies, and at this point, we've been on air for a while now. And
I don't know, what time is it?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, wow, it's 20 to 8.
Yeah.
We're going to be here all night, by the way,
Yeah,
everyone.
this is a screenwriter's marathon.